It's the following morning. We've left our camp at Googs Lake and are heading back out to the main Googs track, and then we'll swing north heading towards Mount Finke today. We woke to a very, very cloudy sky. We went to bed with stars in the sky, and we woke up to complete overcast. They did say on the weather report that it was meant to fine up a little bit later on today, so we'll hold the forecasters to that.
They didn't have the dartboard out?
They might have had the dartboard out.
Because it has not been accurate today for where it says we are.
You know, it's funny, I often lament about the 40 PSI Club tearing up tracks like this, but you never actually seem to meet them. They're out there because the tracks are all chewed up, and you know what? We just met one. He was coming in the opposite direction, two fellas in a BT50, and we pulled off to the side of the track, had a bit of a yarn with him, and he looked at my tires and he said, "Gee, your tires are down a bit." I said, "Yeah, they're around 15 PSI. And he said, "Yeah, I'm running 25 because we weren't expecting to come down this track and I don't have a pump." Well, I call bullshit on his 25. It looked a lot more inflated than that to me. But there you go. They're out there. They exist. I finally met a 40 PSIer. And they're normal humans. They look just like you and me.
Yeah, they were nice guys.
They were, yeah, nice gentlemen, absolutely. Oh, look at this track here. There's 4 different versions to go. Must be where people didn't make it up this here main track. They've done side diversions and stuff.
Probably in the 40 PSI Club.
Probably. Well, let's go up the main track, shall we? It's no more chewed up than the Simpson Desert, but it is chewed.
So many animal tracks. Those ant nests are pretty cool. I think those are probably emu tracks there. They're pretty huge. And then paw prints. Different kinds of ant nests. Hi, little guy.
You're not helping yourself.
Very cute.
At least that way he's not going to get run over.
Yeah.
We're starting to get into a little bit more sizable dunes now. We're 5 kilometers or so north of the Googs Lake turnoff. This one here in front of us, it's a decent climb. One of our very first glimpses of Mount Finke at about the 11 o'clock position on the camera at the moment. We've met 2 other travelers. We met the same group that we met yesterday, so they did the entire Googs track run, overtook us, camped at Mount Finke when we were camped at Googs Lake, and we met them as they were southbound, and we were obviously continuing north. Then there were 2 other guys in one group that we just met who were heading out to Lake Gardner for Speed Week on the salt flats, but apparently they got 20 mil of rain out there yesterday or the day before. So that could be pretty problematic for the guys on the salt lakes.
They said there were teams from New Zealand and the US there as well.
Yeah, it's an international event. One of the guys that follows this YouTube channel actually I think he's a timekeeper out there. So if you're watching, I'm sorry, I can't remember your name, and you might not even have a name on your handle. It might be some anonymous thing. But anyway, I'm to the timekeeper out at Speed Week on Lake Gardiner. If you're watching this, g'day. Hopefully you're keeping the dry side up. We're about 10k south of Mount Fink at the moment, and we're starting to get into these stands of, I'm not sure what type of a tree they are. They're like a she oak or a desert oak, but they're not. But the same sort of leaf structure. Anyway, there's stands of them everywhere, and they're pretty sizable trees. Let's see if there's a stand of them up over this dune. They tend to be in the swales. Yeah, there's one dead in front of the car. That tree would probably be 25 meters tall. Track has been very easy to drive. I guess the biggest thing that I found with it, and I'm comparing it to the Simpson only because we've done that 8, 9, 10 times now, is the dunes are a lot smaller and corrugations everywhere. Tend to be more corrugated actually on the dunes as well. And in the Simo, the corrugations are in the swells, but they stop on the sort of sandy crests of the dunes. These corrugations go all the way up to the top. And of course it's a lot more vegetated with much more mature trees.
I think more unprepared people probably do this track than do the Simpson. I think people prepare for that one more. Like, we've met people who weren't even planning to do this one, that they've just come this way because they could.
Yeah, that could be right. What this track does have going for it is its remoteness. There's not a lot of traffic on it because it's so bloody far from everywhere, but Jill's spot on. A lot of people, certainly that we've met, didn't seem to be really prepared or didn't think they were going to do it. They just kind of happened across it or thought it was a good idea at the time. I certainly don't think people spend years planning to go on Goog's track like they do on the Simo. Having said that, I'm very glad we've come out here. That campsite we had last night on Goog's Lake was stunning. It was an absolute corker. And who knows what's in front of us with Mount Fink.
I was waiting for you to ask me something. You turned it on. We're on the Goog's track and we've just had lunch. Yeah, we're just pulled up at the side of the track. You're already thinking about dinner.
What are we having for dinner?
It's a mystery.
Oh, I saw ground beef.
That's all I'm telling you.
I want to know.
No.
See the torture? See the the pain I live with, not knowing what's for tea? Oh, the pain. The pain. And these are those stands of oak that I was mentioning before. They do look like she oaks that we've got back home in Queensland. They even got the little she oak nut.
Just found a shell. Check out the ants. If I walk through there, they get really agitated. They've got holes. See the holes? I'm walking through and they are getting ugly. I'm getting out of here. Look at them now because I walked through. Seed pods. There's the blossoms. No seed pods on this one. Really pretty colors. Those are those same blossoms that the ants were working on just a minute ago. Remember our old crusty flag with a little pink rag and a stick? Well, as luck would have it, we found that in the middle of Goog's track. What a score! So I forgot my sand flag at home, and somebody's looked after us. We can retire our pink flag. Thank you, stick. Thank you, stick 2. I have just chucked a UE, and we are now heading south. And the reason we're heading south is I wanted to go up a dune from the southern side. The northern side. From the northern side heading south, yes. Just to see whether it's any different. Easier, harder, whatever. That was less washing machine-y.
It was smoother. And the bouncy stuff is definitely on these southern faces. 100%. So, that being the case, I think I would rather travel the way that we're traveling so that you're going through that washing machine stuff with the power on slowly. We're about 2 kilometers south of the Mount Finke turnoff, and the landscape has changed again. The dunes have flattened right out, and the cover now is a lot of grevillea. All this bluey colored leaf stuff, that's all grevillea. It's like a solid grevillea forest. Just coming up to the turnoff for Little Mount Finke, which is off to our right. But have a look at this hill. All of a sudden, we've gotten into gravel and an unvegetated hill. Certainly from a tree point of view. Maybe this is what some of the remnants of Mount Finke, this gravelly stuff, eroded down. Coming up to our turnoff for Mount Finke, and it is going to probably look pretty crappy on the video because we'll be traveling straight into the sun. Yeah, no doubt it's all washed out and starburst. I know the vid's gonna be shit because you're looking straight into the sun, but have a look at that Mount Finke. It is pretty imposing, and it's the only bit of elevation anywhere around here. I don't know whether the GoPro's picking it up, probably not, but I can see the trig point on the top of Mount Finke. It's on the left-hand hump, not the right-hand one. And this is some more of the campgrounds, I think.
Well, that woman said they camped at one with a picnic table.
She did.
So maybe that was where she camped.
Could have been, yeah. I think this track is just going up to the pad there where you walk, where the start of the walk is.
Looks like it. It's near the hill.
Yeah, and then it rounds off.
Well, we can go up and have a look.
Yeah, let's just do that. What the hell? I might just drop it in low range so we're not working the car so hard. This is it. This is the parking area for the walk. Jill and I are just driving around looking for the best campsite, and this is a little track that came to the base of Mount Finke, and there's a little, I don't know, kind of looks like a volcanic plug, I guess. Jill and I are sitting at camp. We have camped in hundreds, literally hundreds of places across Australia, and we have never been driven out of a camp by ants. But we are packing up tomorrow morning and we are out of here. Have a look if I pull my foot out of my thong. That is all bloody ants. Look at them. There's thousands, there's millions, they're everywhere. And normally they go to bed at nighttime. Not these little bastards. They're still going. And they're just littered across this camp. And we are not sooks when it comes to camping. We're pretty hardcore campers.
You spit a spider out of your mouth last night.
Last night I had a drink of my port. We were sitting around the fire and a bloody spider crawled in my port glass. And I drank it and it was sitting in my mouth and I spit a spider out. That didn't even worry me. But these ants, these guys are next level. You can't even put your feet on the ground. You gotta sit here with your feet hovering above the ground. So first thing tomorrow, we're gonna pack up and we're gonna move on to our next camp. We were gonna stay here 2 nights and we're gonna climb Mount Fink tomorrow afternoon because I've got a meeting. I've actually got a business meeting in the morning and I was gonna join that via Starlink. We're still going to do that business meeting, but it's going to be somewhere else, which means it's gonna preclude us from climbing up Mount Fink, which is a little bit of a bummer because we both wanted to get up there. But hey, in this particular instance, we raised the white flag and the ants have won. Well, it is 7 in the morning now. And this is the first time that it's ever happened to Jill and I. We have been forced out of camp due to ants. Luckily, we were up in the rooftop last night, so they didn't bother us up there. But as soon as we got down that ladder today, while it was still dark out, those bloody ants were active and they were everywhere. So we had to bail.
Active as in, like, biting you actively.
Yeah, exactly.
As many ants as possible.
I think that whole campground was a friggin' ant bed or something. One of the groups that we met coming in here mentioned to us, they said, oh, the ants are pretty bad at the camp. And we didn't think too much of it because, you know, that's all relative, isn't it? Bad for one person is not so bad for another, but whew, they were right on this account.
It was the least relaxing evening we've ever had. You were just fighting ants and getting your jobs done, shoveling your food in your face, and up into the rooftop we went as quickly as possible after packing up camp.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. I guess one good thing is we're treated to a pretty cool sunrise.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
So back out on the road, we're going to try and find a spot where we can pull up so I can dial into that meeting that I talked about earlier. And unfortunately, we are going to miss Mount Fink and the climb for Mount Fink, which is a bit of a bummer for me and for Jill. I was looking forward to that.
Yeah, doing something active, but it's not worth it. Being tortured.
Once you get north of Mount Fink, or Fink Mountain, or whatever you want to call it, the track straightens out and gets flat. We're now doing 40 kilometers an hour in 3rd gear. The best you can do in the rest of Goog's track is half of that. Oh, I think we have definitely had a train change.
Yeah, I think so too. Not doing 40 k's an hour anymore.
You certainly aren't. Doing like 5. We're coming up to an unnamed lake, which we've got to traverse. I'd say it's just over this little rise here, according to our map. It's a very vegetated lake.
Much better camping option, I think.
Yeah, it is. What's this sign for Mountain Fink track?
For that alternative one, I think.
You're going to take a track in to see Mount Fink. That would be the one that I would take. I think it'd be a bit more interesting than the one that we took in. So there's 2 tracks in, one on the northern side and one on the southern side. The northern side one is the one that goes through these lakes. Well, we're only about 5 kilometers north of that unnamed lake, and I must admit, this is probably the roughest section of the track in terms of chopped up. We've had to drop down to low range to crawl up some of these dunes because they are so chopped up, especially the melon holes. They're in sort of opposite corners. They are everywhere. The track is well and truly flattened out now. We're probably only about 10k from the end of Goog's track. Trees have gotten a lot taller and the dunes are gone now. So, there we have it, the Transcontinental Railway and the end of the Goog's track.
I don't see any trains.
I don't see any either. I wonder how many come by here a day.
I don't know. Would be cool to see one.
It would be. The meeting chairman's talking about debt at the moment. That's why I got a furrowed brow. Cool.
That was unexpected.
A Land Cruiser train. Well, it's early afternoon now. I have finished my strategic planning meeting. This road is the one that runs parallel to the Transcontinental Railway line. So it's not the actual service road that runs directly beside it, as in a meter or two, but this one's about 100 meters away from it, running parallel to it. The plan is to head back towards Ceduna. We got to pick up some provisions in Ceduna before starting our trek across the Nullarbor. Even these shitty secondary dirt roads in South Australia are in good shape. You know, there are minor corrugations on it, but nothing that's too dramatic. South Australia for the win with its dirt roads.
Just on the edge of the road. What do we have here? Some absolutely stunning Sturt Desert peas.
That's a beautiful little crop. It's even got peas on it. Very pretty flower. And if I'm not mistaken, that's the floral emblem of South Australia, isn't it?
It is, yeah. Just down from them, pig melons. We've had antics with pig melons before, so they have a special place in our heart.
The Trans-Australia Railway Line, straight as a die for thousands of kilometers. And they have done away with all of the wooden sleepers and replaced them now, I guess, with concrete. Still got these chitters things here. We're on the Tarcoola Road, heading towards Kingunya. And we're just skirting a couple of salt lakes here. We're going through the small town of Kingunya. And there's not a lot here.
Oh, but they provided a little camping area on the edge of town.
They
and
did?
There's a hotel.
The Kingunya Hotel. About 8 kilometers out of the town of Kingunya, there is the Kingunya Hill. And we're going to go up there now. It is marked with a... I don't know. What the...
Flying flag. It's like a bird flying.
A bird flying flag thing, yeah.
It's
Weird.
effective.
It is effective. That's the Kingunya Hill in front of us, up to that trig point, and we'll have a see what we can see. Okay, up the Kingunya Hill we go. It's a scrabbly, rocky track. All sorts of little things out here. Well, there's Lake Harris in front of us, and it is one big mother of a salt lake. And just out there is Lake Gardner, which is one bigger mother of a salt lake. That's the one where they have the Speed Week on. The trig point on Kingunya Hill certainly likes its wine. I've never known a trig point to drink that much. And this is cute. We're up still on top of that Kingunya Hill. There's this little pile of rocks, very neatly piled. Stools, pile of firewood, big pieces and kindling. A brand spanking new Barbie plate. running spring water. Friggin' awesome. Oh, the spring is dry. And a visitor's book. How cool. The first entry was in May 29th, 2022. And it looks like the last entry was around about the 15th of January this year. So call that 2 months ago.
Terry's flying the drone at Kingunya Hill. I can hear it up there. We signed the visitor book and we're looking out at the view.
Well, we're about 20 or 30 kilometers south of Kingunya, heading south. And apart from the fact that these roads are in amazing condition, there's not a whole lot to report. Yes, this is the back end of Gollard Ranges National Park, which we won't be visiting this time around, but we're not touring South Australia, remember?
That's why we seem to can't get out of here.
We're touring Western Australia.
Well, we saw a dead pig, but and we saw 2 roos this morning, but that's the wildlife we've seen. A couple of birds.
Yeah. You've had no oncoming traffic?
We did. We had that truck.
One, yeah. We had a road train. One vehicle the whole day. It's 4 o'clock. I've been managing our tire pressures very, very carefully. These tires got to get us all the way across West Australia and back. I don't fancy having to replace them somewhere because I don't know what the availability's like. I know during COVID it was crap. You couldn't get anything. So at the moment we're running probably 30 pounds now on the back and 28 on the front. They were a little bit lower when I set them, but they're hot now, so they probably popped up a few pounds. Another thing I do when we're on dirt roads is I run the car in 4-wheel drive, not 2-wheel drive, so that all 4 tires are clawing at the road together and they wear down more evenly. When I was younger, I didn't do that, and I remember a trip to Birdsville on the Birdsville-Windora Road, running that in 2-wheel drive in my 80 series, and it just chewed the hell out of the back tires because they were pushing the car along the whole time. So if you're on a dirt road, just to preserve your tires, drop it into 4-wheel drive.
Well, we are in the middle of nowhere, and then look at this beautiful view.
Jill and I are all set up at the side of the road, and we found this little gem of a camp. Check that out.
It is moist. Terry's on the phone with somebody, I'm not sure who. beautiful sunrise this morning. Our dried salt lake looks pink. It's very, very pretty. You can hear the camera going off in the background. Terry was filming the sunrise.